Have you ever noticed how quickly peace disappears the moment someone disagrees with you? A single conversation becomes an argument. An argument becomes distance. Distance becomes silence. And suddenly, two people who once cared for each other are standing on opposite sides of an invisible battlefield, both believing they are fighting for the truth. But perhaps the most dangerous illusion of the human mind is not ignorance, it is certainty. The quiet conviction that says, I see clearly. I understand reality. I know what is right. And from that certainty, something strange begins to grow. Anyone who sees the world differently becomes mistaken, then unreasonable, then difficult, and sometimes an enemy. Yet the Buddha understood something that most people spend their entire lives forgetting. The world is far bigger than the small window through which any one of us is looking. Our experiences become our beliefs become our identity, and our identity becomes a prison we mistake for truth. There is an ancient story about 5 blind men and an elephant. At first, it sounds simple, almost childish, but hidden inside it is one of the deepest lessons ever told about ego, conflict, and the human need to be right. Because people rarely suffer from not knowing enough. More often, they suffer because they believe they already know everything. Imagine a quiet afternoon in an ancient village. 5 wise men, who had been blind since birth, were brought before an elephant, a creature they had only ever heard of in whispers. Curious to know its form, they reached out their hands, seeking the truth through the open palms of their hands. The first man stumbled forward, his fingers brushing against the elephant's massive, sturdy leg. He smiled, a deep wave of certainty washing over him, and proclaimed, "Ah, the elephant is exactly like a grand tree trunk. It is solid, round, and holds up the sky." But the second man was standing at the creature's head. As his hands caught the swinging, unpredictable trunk, he pulled back in fear and objected. "No, you are completely blind. This creature is alive, flexible, and dangerous. The elephant is like a giant snake." From the side, the third man reached out and touched the broad, flat ear. He laughed at their ignorance, shaking his head. "How can you both be so foolish? The elephant is soft, flat, and moves with the wind. It is a giant fan." Then came the fourth man, whose wide-open palms pressed against the massive, solid side of the beast. He sighed in frustration, convinced of his own touch. "You all understand nothing. The elephant is not a tree, nor a snake, nor a fan. It is a solid, immovable wall." And at the very back, the fifth man caught the thin, rough tail. He laughed in disgust at their words. "You are all losing your minds. The elephant is simple, rough, and thin. It is nothing but a rope." None of these men were lying. Every single one of them was speaking from a place of honest, direct experience. But as the afternoon sun began to set, the quiet village square dissolved into a violent, screaming match. The debate turned into anger, and the anger turned into bitter hatred. They waved their fists, shouting insults, each man entirely ready to fight to the death, just to defend the absolute certainty of what his own hands had touched. And if we are honest with ourselves, this is the silent tragedy that plays out in our lives every single day. We look at the chaos in the world, the bitter divorces in our families, the broken friendships over a single political debate, and we realize that most human conflicts do not happen because one person is right and the other is wrong. They happen because our ego carries a toxic whisper. Because I am right, you must be wrong. We spend our entire lives mistaking our personal experiences for the absolute truth of the universe. We forget that we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Two people can look at the exact same marriage, the exact same childhood, or the exact same choice. One looks through the lens of old unhealed traumas and sees betrayal. The other looks through the lens of hope and sees love. The difference is never in the world itself. It is in the eyes, the memories, and the conditioning of the person looking at it. As the Buddha beautifully taught, the mind leads all things. We don't look at life with our eyes. We look at it with our past. The tragedy of the 5 blind men is that they had the keys to the kingdom right in front of them. If they had only listened, they could have pieced their fragments together and discovered a magnificent truth, that the elephant is a beautiful combination of a tree, a wall, a fan, and a rope. But the human ego doesn't want to discover the whole truth. The ego just wants to win. It never pauses during an argument to ask, "What part of the elephant am I missing?" It only asks, "How do I force you to admit that my piece is the only one that exists?" This is where true wisdom begins. Not when you collect more facts to prove your dominance, but on the quiet day, you have the radical humility to stand before the vastness of life and say, "Perhaps I haven't seen the whole picture yet." The ego treats this admission as a defeat, a terrifying loss of control, but in reality, it is the moment the door of the prison opens wide. Humility is not about believing you are small or worthless. It is understanding that no matter how much you think you know, no matter how vivid your experience is, it is still just one tiny part of the elephant. So tonight, when you close this video and step back into your life, something will inevitably test you. Someone you love, or a stranger on the internet, will disagree with you. You will feel that familiar heat rising in your chest. Your mind will scream at you to sharpen your weapons and march onto the battlefield. In that exact moment, I invite you to pause. Take a deep, slow breath, and let the image of the 5 wise men shouting at an innocent elephant flash across your mind. Ask yourself 3 quiet questions. Am I trying to understand them, or am I just trying to beat them? Are they just touching a different part of the reality that I cannot see from where I am standing? And most importantly, if I had inherited their exact wounds, lived their exact life, and carried their exact burdens, would I see the world any differently? The moment you ask these questions, the battlefield disappears. We suffer in our relationships not because we lack knowledge, but because we are too heavily attached to the absolute certainty that we already know everything. Sometimes, to truly see the beauty of the whole elephant, you don't need to fight for better eyesight. You just need to open your tight, bleeding fists and let go. If this story brought a quiet space of peace into your heart tonight, leave a comment below with just one word: perspective. Not for the world to see, but as your own gentle promise to your mind. I will no longer mistake my tiny window for the whole sky. Stay awake on your journey.